The Lakers don't see a divide in the road as much as it is a pitchfork. The Kings make 7 roster moves in order to scare the youngsters. And Keenan Allen confesses to murdering the Raiders secondary before it actually happens. Hi, I'm James, and this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is December 2nd, 2022. The weekend is nigh. And then, by the way, let's start it off by talking some LA sports. If you like the content that we put out, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notifications bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And yes, comment. I'm a lonely boy. I need the interaction. So, before we go through the news and notes, quick look at the scoreboard. 21st ranked UCLA scored the first 17 points of the game against Stanford. And I'm like, yeah, there's no real reason to keep watching this. Jaime Jaquez Jr. scores 27 points to lead the Bruins to an 80-66 victory. The great reset of the LA Kings worked for one night anyway, with a 5-3 victory over the Coyotes. Anze Kopitar scores twice. Meanwhile, today, USC football, they are in Las Vegas with a Pac-12 title, potential college playoff berth, and Heisman Trophy all on the line when the Trojans play Utah tonight at 5. There is a preview of that game on the USC playlist of this channel. Meanwhile, the Lakers are at Milwaukee. That's at 4:30 p.m. They're 2-6 on the road. Hey, guess where the Lakers are spending their next 6 games? What do you say we keep talking about the Lakers for a moment? Can I ask you something? Are you antsy for a Lakers trade like the press insists you are? Or maybe just the press is antsy for a Lakers trade? Is it more media nonsense? There have been dozens of trade rumors, but antsy? How many of them have actually affected you? Or are you just kind of like, okay, well, we're just going to wait because, you know, USC is whooping ass over there, or, you know, the Dodgers are going to do something and that's going to be cool. But antsy over the Lakers making a trade? The reason I bring it up is the Lakers have told people that they wouldn't make a deal for at least 20 games into the season. And those 20 games have passed. So now the scribes are all of a sudden pushing deals. We talked about that earlier this week. And now they're claiming make a deal because the fans are antsy. So again, are you antsy? I don't feel particularly antsy. The Athletic is reporting now that the Lakers are considering 3 pathways for trades, but they won't move until at least December 15th. So let's ask Wayne Brady what is behind door number 1 of these 3 possibilities for the Lakers. Behind door number 1, Russell Westbrook and at least 1, possibly 2 first-round draft picks for a star or multiple good players. Behind door number 2 is Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn and maybe a pick for role players who would fill immediate needs. Now that would also free up cap space for LA for next year. One report claims it's anywhere from 16 to 25 million. And behind door number 3, 2 separate trades, one of them being Westbrook plus a pick, and then Beverly and Nunn plus a pick. The writer is suggesting that the Lakers are leaning towards doors 2 and 3. You tell me in the comments thread what you think, especially the antsy part. By the way, speaking of Beverly, he said he was out and about in Phoenix. He ran into Suns players and received, quote, no smoke, unquote, from any of them regarding shoving DeAndre Ayton to the ground. And frankly, I buy it. I do. The reason I keep harping on this little stunt from last Tuesday's game is because there are very few players in the NBA who are really willing to throw down against each other. Not with each other. Oh, me? Sure, I have an extremely punchable face. They'll hit me without a second thought. But somebody else in the league? No, they don't really, not many players have the guts to do that. As assumed, Kings goalie Cal Peterson cleared waivers, and he gets to take the Metrolink out to Ontario to play with the Reign, to try to fix his skill set and whatnot. But at least on this train to the Inland Empire, while he is lowering his carbon footprint and taking advantage of the great Wi-Fi on Metrolink, he will not be lonely. He will be joined by defenseman Jordan Spence and forward Rasmus Kapari. They are heading back to the AHL as well. In their place, the Kings have called up 4 players. So this is part of a great reset that the Kings want to make, because they also, in addition to those 7 roster transactions, they had a meeting 2 days ago. Players, coaches, and I think general manager Rob Blake. So who are these players? You could say the Kings added scoring with Samuel Fagemo. He leads Ontario with 6 goals. Tyler Madden is coming up. He has 5. Yet the Kings do not have a problem scoring goals right now. They have problems at the other end, keeping the other bastards from scoring goals. So they called up defenseman Tobias Bjornfoot and goalie Phoenix Copley. Bjornfoot, you probably remember, he played 70 games for LA last year, but he had fallen out of favor, much like Cal Peterson. He didn't play in the playoff series against the Oilers, started this year in the minor leagues. Copley has enjoyed a couple of lattes up with the St. Louis Blues and Washington Capitals, but he is a 30-year-old career minor leaguer. He is the Crash Davis of hockey. Bjornfoot's going to be paired with Matt Roy. Fagemo goes to the 4th line. But what does this all mean? Well, for lack of a better way of saying it, Peterson is the Reign's #1 goalie until he fixes what the hell is wrong. If he fixes what the hell is wrong. Blake told the LA Times he was not trying to send a message to the team. Now, he could say that, but the Kings then shut down practice yesterday so that they could have this non-message sink in. So yeah, that's a little weird, wouldn't you say? Coach Todd McClellan was asked if the moves had sent a message to the rest of the team. Quote, "It damn well should, because we share in that transaction. All of us do," unquote. So basically, a couple of nights ago, the Seattle Kraken pumped in 9 goals against a team that was supposed to be known for defensive responsibility. And this has been a trend. And so the Kings basically said, to hell with it, we got to shake things up. That's what this basically means. Doesn't mean the season's over. Certainly not a quarter of the way in. If the playoffs started today, the Kings are in. But expectations were high going into this year. They just haven't been reaching them. Drew Doughty says he recognizes that he and the team are just as responsible for Peterson's demotion as the goalie, but the message is clear. McClellan is sick of what he's seeing. And frankly, I knew a lot of friends who went to the Kraken Kings game, and they felt pretty nauseated too. So it's time to emphasize structure. Derwin James was named Defensive Player of the Month in the AFC. Now, earlier this week, we mentioned how he single-handedly led the defense against the Cardinals with a pick, 8 tackles, and a forced fumble. In the month, however, in 4 games, 37 tackles, 2 forced fumbles. You know how some people, they play for this bigger contract and then they get the bag of money and then they decide to take a nap using the bag of money as a pillow? Credit to James. He's not doing it. He is on a pace for a career high in tackles for a season with 154. This is an unsteady defense, but he has been a rock for the Bolts this year. No doubt about it. If you are a Chargers pessimist, you think Josh Jacobs is looking forward to seeing the Bolts defense on Sunday. And that's fair. If you are a Chargers optimist, you know that Keenan Allen is looking forward to Sunday against the Raiders secondary. Now, if you recall, the season opened against the Raiders. He gets 4 catches just before halftime, 66 yards, and then pulls up limp. Allen, though, loves facing the Raiders defense because they play almost exclusively man-to-man. So he knows exactly what he's getting himself into. When he described what it's going to be like to playing in Vegas on Sunday, he called it barbecue chicken. And so the press asked him what the hell that meant. He said, they're dead. Note to the Vegas secondary, you're dead, according to Keenan Allen. You just don't know it yet. Yikes. So someone might want to alert Vegas Metro Police there's going to be a murder-death kill on Sunday. I'm not saying it's going to happen. For all I know, Keenan Allen might injure his hamstring all over again. And oh, by the way, the Raiders can run the ball. I'm just saying both teams have opportunities to move the ball against each other. We're just going to see who winds up bleeding out on the 50-yard line first. Players who didn't practice Thursday are also considered unlikely to play Sunday in Nevada. That would include wide receiver Mike Williams, center Corey Linsley, and right tackle Trey Pipkins. All of those, if they don't play for the Chargers, that would be a bit of a problem. I've been tempted to call Ken Rosenthal Captain Bowtie for years, and yet I've heard nothing but nice things about him. He seems like a decent guy. Anyway, I bring that up because he believes that the Dodgers are about $45 million under the salary tax threshold once Clayton Kershaw's contract gets signed. He hasn't signed it yet. And by the way, thanks to Rosenthal, we have yet another name to add to the whiteboard of players the Dodgers are allegedly interested in. Ooh. Now, this is from Rosenthal. You can see the name right in the middle. Colton Wong, the second baseman from Milwaukee. We had mentioned earlier this week how another scribe thought the Dodgers were interested in Milwaukee's shortstop. Rosenthal claims it's the second baseman. This brings the number of players the Dodgers are supposedly going to go bananas over to 26. 26. And the national press still hasn't decided to exercise a little bit of restraint. I'm looking forward to this list reaching as high as 100 the way these clowns are writing. Oh, by the way, Rosenthal also thinks Justin Verlander is a legit target. Shocked, I say. The Athletic rightly believes other programs in the country will try to emulate the USC quick fix model that Lincoln Riley was able to work in this year. The problem is other schools have already tried it. It just didn't work. I mean, I mentioned Texas A&M and Miami earlier this week. Neither one of them wound up the Season Bowl eligible. So the question then has to be asked. What is the difference between USC and all these other schools that are going to attempt to rebuild like that? Well, according to people around the Pac-12, coaches, including some who were involved with USC during the Clay Helton era, Riley is doing two things that nobody else did. One, people are overlooking the relationship that Lincoln Riley has with quarterback Caleb Williams. They already had one in Oklahoma. So you could pull a quarterback from the transfer portal, but what if he doesn't know the playbook through and through, like Caleb Williams does? And then the second one, they have an opposing coach, or I should say this is from an opposing assistant coach. Riley, quote, had complete control of the team. They never popped off. They never did something out of the ordinary, unquote. So in other words, Riley gave an abundance of structure, whereas Clay Helton was like, whatever, do what you want. Have you ever seen a quieter, this is somebody's first game against his old team storyline? Have you ever seen a quieter one than Bobby Wagner facing the Seattle Seahawks? I can only speculate. It's probably because the Rams just aren't that good right now. And oh, by the way, the Seahawks, they got exposed by the Raiders last week. Wagner says he doesn't miss Seattle because the t-shirt he wears now says Los Angeles Rams. See what I mean? Boring. The only decent quote from the whole thing came from Pete Carroll, who said, quote, the Seahawks miss everything about him. There's no replacing him, unquote. UCLA defensive lineman Hayden Harris has entered the transfer portal. Now, Harris has only played 3 games last year. He is the 4th Bruins player to enter the portal. He has 2 years of eligibility left, and good for him, he's also graduating from UCLA in a week. Finally, some family matters during the holidays. David Shaw, he resigned as the Stanford coach earlier this week, and his son has decided to play for UCLA. Sort of. He didn't get offered a scholarship. Carter Shaw is coming to the Bruins as, quote, a preferred walk-on. and I have no idea what the hell that means. He's a wide receiver from Sacred Heart Prep in Northern California. Once considered a 3-star prospect for 24/7 Sports, but he didn't make the top of anyone's list. He is considered the 233rd best prospect in California. So there's that. But you let me know about these sort of things. What do you think? Let me know in the comments thread. What do you think about USC playing for the Pac-12 title tonight? What do you think about the Dodgers now having 26 players they're allegedly interested in? There's a ton to talk about going into this weekend. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We talk LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back later tonight with a rapid recap of the Pac-12 title game. And Faithful Angelenos is a Keenan Allen production. Take care.